What is quickly becoming my favorite genre of video is watching Prime Minister Justin Trudeau be asked, "Why do people hate you? Why don't people like your policies? Are you going to resign?" And having him meander around trying to find a non answer suitable enough to get himself through the situation. I love it because we're all thinking the exact same thing. People hate you because you're smug, annoying, and bad at your job, but then he kind of goes on this long filibustering diatribe about how he understands people and there's tough stuff ahead of us and we all need to work together. I have a great one for you guys here today from when he was on the CBC, whatever, some radio show on CBC, and the host just point blank asks him, "Why don't people like you?" And this is how it all goes down. And I'm literally clipping this from a social media account that is pro Trudeau. They thought this was good content.
You're a factor in this, you personally. Why do you think people don't like you?
You know, I spend a lot of time talking with Canadians right across the country. I spent time this morning with construction workers talking about the work that they were doing, building new rental units for Canadians here in Toronto. I think there is a lot of frustration with the way the world is unfolding, and that frustration is being taken out on people in positions of power.
Maybe it's because you and other people in positions of power are bad at your job and they resent the fact that you don't take accountability. Construction workers have to take accountability for things that they mess up. And I love how he pivots immediately from Justin, people hate you. You're bad at your job. And he's like, "Well, I was talking to some construction workers the other day." Wow, you were talking to construction workers? You were talking to people with real jobs who presumably are pretty good at them. And he's gonna go probably pivot to be like, "We have a housing acceleration fund, and that's really helping these construction workers do their job better." It's not. It's not helping them do their job better. Notice how we've had the housing acceleration fund for like 3 years now, and we haven't built any new homes. We haven't built an increased amount of homes compared to previous years. In fact, the amount of houses that we are building is going down per year because more government regulations, building codes, labor codes, environmental inspections being required to get this money just means that housing building is going to be even slower. And then we're wiping out zoning laws along with it, which is so we get to ruin neighborhoods. We get to have more house units than we have parking spots, and we get to build those houses slower than we ever have before. Good job, Justin.
Get that. That's part of my job. But my job is to stay focused on the solutions that people are going to need. And that's what we're doing.
But what about you? I mean,
I love how he immediately comes back at him and be like, "But you didn't answer my question. People don't like you." You don't get to pivot away by being like, there's a lot of people wrongly frustrated at people in power. I'm like, that's not how that works. People don't just like get mad at the guy doing a great job. Usually you get rewarded for doing a good job, which is why people usually get reelected, not downgraded to a minority government and holding on by their nails.
we're both old enough to have seen a number of prime ministers, and I have never seen, I mean, the sticker that I saw yesterday in downtown Toronto running through the city with F Trudeau on the back of a pickup truck, flags with your name and the middle finger raised.
Yeah.
Why don't people like you?
There is a level of polarization and toxicity that we see in a very visible way.
Are you part of that? Are you part of that? That's the big question here. Are you part of why people are acting toxic? I'm even on board with the idea. Don't put a expletive Trudeau flag or sticker on your house, your truck. In general, don't do that. I don't know why people do that. It's not winning you any extra votes against Trudeau. If anyone, people are going to be like, that's vulgar. I'm not voting for whoever that guy's voting for. Don't do that. But Trudeau acting like there's like no accountability here. There's no ownership over the fact that people hate him this much is rich. Oh, and of course, it's social media. That's the problem. Everyone needs to go migrate over to Blue Sky into a good echo chamber. Also, I do need this screenshot. I'm going to literally pause this video because it's such a great screenshot moment of him looking upset.
On social media and also in real life, as you point out. But most Canadians remain thoughtful and open and decent, and yes, frustrated and worried about their future. But I also know Canadians are good people who are willing to work together to build that future, and I'm part of that.
To me, this just sounds like he's taking advantage of people's goodwill. He fully knows that he's taking advantage of people's goodwill because he's basically just dismissing that, well, people are frustrated, but they're thoughtful, so they'll let me keep going. We don't want you to keep going. Yes, there are the people with the flags and the bumper stickers, but what about the reasonable people who don't like you? Well, they're frustrated. They don't like you. There is polling out there to prove people don't like you. Abacus Data does a bi-weekly, every 2 weeks tracking poll of Justin Trudeau's approval rating. Do you know how bad he's performing right now? He is at near his lowest approval rating ever. And when I say what his lowest approval rating is, it was literally just 2 weeks ago. There's always going to be a little bit of up and down. He is sitting around 23% approval with 61% disapproval. That's not frustration. There's polarization out there. That's you suck at your job. But I just want to quickly jump over to a couple of examples of not only why people don't like him, but why people don't like his government in general. So you have an example of something Justin Trudeau said yesterday, and then we will jump over to something one of his ministers said today. This is why people don't like it. The country is not working. Mass immigration has caused a housing crisis with obviously municipal, provincial, and federal level building restrictions. It's not zoning that's the problem. We had zoning forever, and we never had extremely expensive houses up until the last 20 years. It is everything else. It is the artificial demand of mass immigration. It is crazy amounts of regulations on building, crazy amounts of taxes. That's what makes building more expensive. Again, zoning laws existed forever, but as long as you were building the right type of house in the area, it was easy to do. Now it is not. Anyways, but so this is a little bit why people don't respect the man. Justin Trudeau, we're ready for you, Taylor Swift. Good choice wrapping the Era tours in Canada. Has this always been your end game? Toronto, Vancouver. You're the prime minister of the country. Stop tweeting at Taylor Swift. She's not going to like your tweet. I know he's a single man now. Stop tweeting at Taylor Swift. There's no end game here. Like, yes, this was. What do you think? She was going to retweet you, quote tweet you, and say, "Yes, Justin, this was always my end game." Also, good job on that housing acceleration fund. Good job on that hate speech bill you're putting through the parliament right now, trying to like have people put under house arrest and wear ankle monitors for maybe thinking about doing something hateful. Good job, Justin. What is this? He's a deeply unserious person with all of the consequences of his policies being very serious for the average person. Taxes are at a all-time high in Canada, both provincially and federally when you combine them all. It's crazy how high taxes are. It's crazy how high spending is, how high regulations are. And for some reason, the government always thinks that we're going to get to the other side of this dark, dark tunnel. Somehow we've convinced ourselves there is another end to this tunnel. As long as we just pass another bloated, stupid program, we will eventually make it to the other side. There is no other side to this tunnel. We need to reverse course and take the other fork in the road that's not going down this dark tunnel. But now I just want to bring up this other tweet, and it's mostly just me jamming in because it was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was from the Attorney General, the Justice Minister of Canada, Arif Farani. But I want to start out with the tweet that he is responding to from Graham McGregor here, a Conservative MP, I believe a provincial member of provincial parliament in Ontario. And he says, people say that those charged of crimes must have a right to reasonable bail. But if someone steals a car, is granted bail, steals another car, and is granted bail again, is that bail reasonable? Unfortunately, the federal Liberals think so. We need to return to reason, and that starts with meaningful bail reform. And in response to this very, at least in my mind, reasonable ask by Greg McGregor here, we then have our justice minister start belittling him because apparently he just doesn't get it. That he's not smart enough to understand the nuances to the failed bail reform that the Liberals implemented. And we don't even need bail reform. We need anti-bail reform. We had fine bail when Harper was prime minister. We need to go back to those bail laws. So I want regressive policy on this front. Regressive policy in this instance is very good because the progressive policy is putting criminals out in the streets to attack people and then immediately get released or get sentences of like 3 years for aggravated sexual assault or whatever. It's nuts what's going on. But here's what our champion of the people, Arif Farani, says. Our justice minister says, so you finally say the quiet part out loud. Your concern isn't with federal bail laws, it's with how they're being interpreted and enforced in provincial courts by provincially appointed judges and justices of the peace. Arif, resign from government. So, no. This is a problem with the federal laws. One, a lot of these judges were appointed before these governments, the current people in provincial governments started complaining at you. They were put in power a long time ago. This is a you problem. If a judge has the capacity to keep re-releasing the same person multiple times, that's a bad law. Now we are at the mercy of the stupidest people on the planet, and for some reason they have been made judges in this country, and they don't care how many times you knock over a liquor store or mug somebody. They're just going to keep letting you go because they're Aladdins, and they're really just stealing liquor and stealing televisions because they're just trying to feed hungry kids. You have to go and end these laws that allow for judges to have insane levels of lack of judgment on how a criminal should be treated who keeps reoffending. And let's be very clear too, that's actually not really how it works. Some judges would like to hold people, but the law requires that prosecution bend over backwards to present just unreasonable amount of information to basically justify holding somebody, or the judge is basically compelled to automatically release. Some judges, I would say a lot of judges around Canada, are liberal hacks, and they will let people out of prison all day long because they believe that prison is a cruel punishment for somebody who keeps attacking other people and stealing. I don't know why, they're insane. But now we have a system where even if you are a reasonable judge, the prosecution has to basically drop all of its other cases just so it can present all the information, do all the filings it needs to get a repeat violent offender just going out and trying to knock people out, playing the knockout game. That person, they need to have like a psychologist brought in. They need to have like 1,000 pages. They need to write like 3 novels on why this guy should not be granted bail. Or the judge is basically supposed to just release them, or they might be crazy and they might release them even if the prosecution jumps through all those hoops, which is why the prosecution tends to not even do that, or the Crown tends to not do that, because what's the point? What's the point of doing all that work to maybe have one guy held? This is the problem. There is perverse incentives that have been established by the federal government, and this is why people don't like Justin Trudeau. He and his government officials are never responsible for anything. Nothing. Oh, there's just problems in the world. People are frustrated about it, but they shouldn't be toxic and blame us. You guys are responsible. I don't even know how Arif Farani becomes the justice minister when he doesn't even seem to think he has agency to enforce the law himself. It's other people's faults. It's other people's fault. He might as well just write a bill saying enforce the law and then walk away and wonder why that didn't do anything. Anyways, that's it for me today, guys. If you want to keep following this channel and watching the videos, make sure you subscribe to it. Hit the subscribe button, like this video, leave a comment, and if you would like to support the channel, donate to the Give, Send, Go Legal Fund, both in the description below as well as pinned at the top of the comments, where I also have pinned my website, WyattClaypool.com. No matter where you live in Canada, if you sign up onto that list, it allows me to be able to email you if there is an interesting nomination or leadership race going on in your specific provincial or federal riding or in your province in terms of leadership races. And so if you sign up there, it allows me to give you recommendations. I especially recommend you sign up if you happen to live in the provinces of Manitoba or New Brunswick, since those progressive conservative parties out there are going to be having leadership races quite soon. And I would also recommend signing up if you live in Toronto or Calgary, since there are going to be municipal races that I'm very interested in stepping into, not running for anything, but just stepping into and trying to make sure we get as many crazy progressives out of office as humanly possible. So go there, sign up for that, donate to the show if you can, and I'll see you guys all next time.